Puppy class instructor demonstration training video, Puppy Elementary, week 4. Keep in mind there's a lot of lessons in this class, so you want to keep the pace going pretty quickly. Okay, everybody, everybody go ahead and make sure you put those dog beds on the floor, and we're going to start out with our Celebrate game. So everybody pull out about 10-15 treats. We're going to watch our puppies for sits, laying down, looking us in the eye, going to the dog bed, and if they step a couple feet away from us, if they come back to us, say your marker word and give them that treat. Go ahead and do that for about 60 seconds. Now, this is one of the more important things that you can do for your puppy that a lot of people disregard because it seems so simple. I know that we do it in puppy class, but we want you to make sure you're really doing it at home. So for this one, make sure that you are telling each other to celebrate if people forget or miss an opportunity to do so. I know it seems like you're doing it a lot, but I promise you, this is going to be profoundly impactful on your puppy, but only if you get in the habit of it. Now, I also want you to continue doing it throughout the rest of the class. The rest of the class, you don't have to give a treat, and at home, probably don't need to give a treat. I actually would probably not recommend a treat unless your puppy is really having difficulty with something. Just say your marker word and pet under the chin. We're not asking them to do these things, so we're not want to load them up with treats all day long. Reward, your affection is rewarding and is attention. So make that attention is rewarding. So make sure that you're just going ahead and that you are doing that at home, and here the rest of the class while I'm going through lessons, watch that puppy. Nothing makes us happier than we see a puppy that sits, looks at humans, and they come and sit over here, look at them, they go to the dog bed, they lay down, and they're getting rewarded for doing it. We've seen other people who do not celebrate, and what their puppies do is jump up at them, they bark at them, they chew the leash, they chew on the people's shoes. Please don't be that person. Just practice this. I promise you, if you get in the habit of doing it every time you pet your puppy, it becomes a true gift. Okay, let's go over a quick recap of last week. Did anybody set up a play date? You did. How did it go? Was it with another puppy? Did they play well? Did you take pictures and post afterwards? And I've heard one other thing. I've heard people say, well, it doesn't really matter their size. The size is a factor. The most important thing is the play style. But you know, if we get too small a dog and too big a dog, that size can be a danger issue. So I wouldn't say the thing I like to stress is it doesn't have to be the same breed. For some reason, people with corgis only want to set up play dates with corgis or shepherds or whatever it is. Certain dogs have play styles, but remember, keep on stressing the variety. And how many play dates have you had by now is something, if you get people who haven't, who nope, they haven't done it. Out of curiosity, how many play dates has your puppy had? And then if you can make a correlation, if their dog struggles in class, say, hey, this is why. This is pretty advanced when you have multiple puppies here. That's great for supervision, but it's 3 or 4 or 5 other puppies where a play date at home is only a one-on-one. Please set those up. Now, we're hoping that you guys are signed up for a puppy high school class, and that's where we go over a lot of self-control exercises. It's a really, really important class. It's kind of a finishing class, so we'd highly recommend it. But if you're not in that class, you can still continue to use the puppy class parents page. You do not have to stop once puppy classes stop, once you stop puppy classes. Matter of fact, it's something we really enjoy, being able to keep up with our students after they finish classes. But again, hopefully you're signed up for that Puppy Elementary. We'll talk about that, I guess, in a sec. Now, last week we went over a pause interrupter, and this is a really important thing because most of us train our dogs to misbehave because all attention is validating. Please say it like that. All attention is validating. So if your puppy gets your shoe in the trash and you say, hey, oh, stop, they jump up at you, knock it off, that's like giving your puppy a treat. So we covered this lesson in all of our classes because most of us actually are the ones that train our puppies to do things we don't want. So remember, using that pause interrupter. Have you get a chance to, anybody had an opportunity to use that this last week? You did. When did you use it? Your puppy was about to grab one of your kids' toys and you say you made the sound. And then what's your pause interrupter? And then after you gave the sound, what did you do next? You went over and grabbed your puppy. Okay, well remember, we want to make the pause interrupter sound, then we want to follow it up with hand targeting or give them a cue, like teaching them to do the hurricane, something we're going to teach later today, or any other cue that's going to get them to go away from the thing. And remember, if they go right back to it, again, that means your puppy's bored. Give it a bully stick, take it out for a walk, do some training, play some fetch, do something. It doesn't have to be a marathon walk, take it out for a 5-minute walk, come back in. They're probably going to forget about what that was. All right, let me see. And make sure if you do set up those playdates, take pictures and post them there. That usually leads you to another plate. Well, I guess we already talked about skipping. Yeah. All right, I'm a little bit off. Okay, now last week we went over the It's Your Choice lesson. Now this is a great self-control exercise. Now, if your puppy struggled in this one, it might be because we found that people who do not successfully complete the bucket game, where you hold the bucket, here, 5 passes here, 5 passes here, here, in your knees, and then before you get to the ground. If you haven't completed that one, It's Your Choice is a lot more difficult. I'm gonna have everybody go ahead and demonstrate a little bit for us so we can watch your puppy's technique. So let's go ahead and have everybody see, go ahead and hold that. Watch for people who are like pulling their hand away or closing their hand. Remember, that's a negative punishment. We want to try to avoid doing that. That's why we do it, where we hold it really far away. And the puppy really has impulse control. They can hold it up here where the puppy's head is down there. Make sure that you're watching. They should be marking when the dog looks at it, and the mark should cause their hand to open. Then they should grab the treat and give the treat to the dog and close. Tell them just do it for, they don't have to go, have them do it as well as they can, but watch for those particular things. Now, those of you whose puppy is not, you can't get to the point where you can have your hand right in front of their nose. How do you expect your puppy not to jump up on the counter and steal a steak or grab something that looks fun on the floor? If you don't help your puppy practice impulse control with exercises like It's Your Choice or the bucket game, it's not reasonable for you to expect them to not grab things that they find interesting. So please make sure you practice this one a lot. This is a great exercise. It doesn't take a lot of time to really get nailed down, but it's a great impulse control that will have a big impact on your puppy for the rest of its life. All right, we also went over the Walk With Me game. Did everybody get a chance to practice that last week? Don't go around room to room, just everybody get a chance. Yeah, okay, I'm seeing some hands, yes. I'm seeing some people not saying anything. Remember, loose leash walking is probably one of the #1 requests in terms of training that we get at Doggone Problems. And this is one of the foundational exercises that we use. So remember, all you got to do is just, you have that treat, you're going to walk backwards to the side. I'm going to have you guys demonstrate a little bit. Yeah, you don't have to walk too many steps. I just want to see your technique. Watch to make sure people have gotten to the point where they can, hopefully by this point, they can walk side by side facing the same direction. Make sure they're also delivering the treat behind, well, I guess that's a little bit different. The Walk With Me is really just walking around. It's really orientation, but make sure they're delivering the treat on whichever side of their body they want the dog to traditionally walk on. When you get done with the demo for that, did anybody get a chance to work in the turns? You did. So you're saying left and then luring the dog to the left, and as soon as you take that first step on the left direction, you're saying the marker word and releasing the treat? Awesome. That's pretty cool when you're able to do that. I've seen situations where the dog is somewhere and you say left or left, I guess that way, and when the dog's looking for a ball or something like that. So it's a really cool way so you can actually help your dog have directions. Also, if you're in a crowd or a difficult area and you say right and your dog knows where you're going, just makes things a little bit easier and less frustrating for your puppy because it knows what you want them to do. Now, a quick reminder, make sure you keep on saying let's go every time you leave class to go on a potty break, get out of the car to come to class, getting ready for a walk, just getting ready to go. If you know your puppy's going to follow you in the next room, let's go. And remember, the more you say that, eventually that becomes a very powerful cue if your puppy is distracted sniffing something, which we'd like them to do, but they're doing something you don't want, say let's go. After a sufficient amount of sniffing, they're much more likely to just get up because they're in a habit of let's go means we're on to the next adventure. All right, and then like I mentioned earlier, I hope you guys are signed up for our puppy high school class. It's our self-control class. It's the last class that we offer for puppy classes. That's where we teach teach your puppy to look at you on cue and things along those lines. We'd recommend you get to it as soon as possible. Remember, puppies are practicing everything they do. This includes unwanted behaviors. So if your puppy had difficulty with the bucket game or It's Your Choice, the self-control exercises that we're going to cover in high school will really help. So make sure you contact our booking coordinator and get signed up for those classes. Okay, the next exercise we're going to go over is kind of an exercise, but also kind of a technique that we want you to have in your back pocket that'll help you if your puppy, does anybody have, if your puppy develops any fears? Does anybody's puppy have a fear of the harness or the collar or the trimmers? Or, yeah, okay. So it's not unusual for puppies to develop a reluctance to want to get into things. So we're going to go over a technique called CER, which stands for Conditioned Emotional Response. This is what our behavior consultants use when dogs have a fear of going down the stairs or having the collar or the trimmers or whatever it is. And basically what it is we're going to basically break down the dog's fear into slices and help them practice. The whole pie of fear is too much for them, so we're going to have one little slice and help them practice with that little slice and make that little slice into a positive so they can start looking at all the elements of, or whatever the thing is, as a positive. Now, in order to do this, we're basically going to be using our hands kind of and some movement. So what we're going to do is I'd like everybody to pull out about 7 or 8 treats. And We're gonna, and I'm gonna go around and you're gonna see if they have a harness. I mean, ideally they like to have a harness or collar that you can use for this. You can have, if you have some in your deal, you can hand out collars and harnesses for them to use as well. You should have some in your roll top. Okay, so we're gonna have all of our treats in one hand, we're gonna have our collar or harness in the other hand, and we're gonna start off with both of our hands behind our back. Now, once we start the exercise, only one of our hands is allowed to be in front at a time. So make sure that you are mindful of that. What we're gonna do is, if this is the collar, I'm gonna go ahead and show the dog the collar, and when the dog looks at the collar, I'm gonna say my marker word, and then the collar goes away, and then I'm gonna give them a treat. And then we'll repeat that. And if your puppy leans away, go ahead and hold it a little bit further away from your puppy. And the idea is we're going to practice about 3 to 5 times, and what you should find is your puppy is going to start, eventually they're going to look at it at first, eventually they're going to lean towards it, and that lean is when we're going to mark. So I'd like to everybody to pull this, do it about 6 or 7 times. So again, flash the item, they look at it, say your marker word, give them a treat. Do that about 3 or 4 times, and really about the 4th or 5th time, I hold it there and wait for a little bit of a lean, and then say your marker word and give a treat. All right, so I'm looking at this now. So stage 1 is, okay, we're gonna do it 3 times. Just look at it, marker word and treat. Look at it, marker word, treat. Look at it, marker word, treat. Okay, now that was, and everybody practice that as a group. Okay, now we're gonna step 2. Step 2 is we're gonna ask our puppy for a lean. So we're gonna hold it up and wait a second. If our puppy leans towards it, say your marker word and give them that treat. Everybody do that 3 times. Okay, the last stage for this is we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna hold it out, and we want our puppy to touch their nose to it. As soon as they do, then we're gonna say the marker word, take it away, and give them the treat. Everybody do that about 3 or 4 times. Okay, now some of your puppies weren't okay with touching it with the nose. That just means we need more practice. This is a great technique because it's completely force-free, and all the puppy has to do is first look at it and then lean a little bit close to it and eventually touch it with their nose. And this exercise will really set up the next exercise we're gonna do, which is to teach your puppy to put its head into a harness or a collar. Now, when we're doing this exercise, it's really important that we're not shoving this in the dog's face, especially the dog has a negative association with it. So what we want to do with this one is we're going to hold up the collar, we're going to have a treat in our hand, and we're going to hold the collar static, and our hand is going to be going through it. So we're going to hold, and we're going to take the treat. If our puppy's right here, we're going to go through the collar to really about to the little bit past the wrist. As soon as the puppy takes the treat, we go ahead and release it, grab another treat. This time we're maybe only to our wrist. And gradually, as we do it, each time that we do it, our hand's going to go through a little bit less, till eventually we're holding our hand just right in the middle of it, and our puppy is sticking its nose through. The idea is for the puppy to start coming towards us, as opposed to us going towards them with a scary collar or harness or whatever the object is. Now, this is an exercise just for the collar, but the CER, I guess, is for the object. All right, so what we're going to do is I'm going to have you guys all do this. And remember, do not move the collar towards the puppy. Hold the collar static, put your hand through it, and eventually your puppy is going to start putting its nose through the collar. And eventually, and here's the thing, when your puppy is about 60 to 70, 80%, you're going to be tempted to slide it on all the way. Don't. You might spook them. Make sure the collar is also wide enough so your puppy can comfortably put their head through it. If not, you might want to make that collar a little bit bigger if it's a martingale like this. Just make it super easy for the puppy and go at your puppy's pace, not at our pace. If you do this right, you should be able to get your puppy to put its own harness on. This one you can go ahead and demonstrate with the collar. You don't have to necessarily demonstrate with the puppy unless you have a lot of fearful puppies in class. All right. Okay, now we're going to send you a video on this, but keep this in your back pocket. If your puppy develops any fears of something, you want to use that first part of the exercise. And if your puppy does not like having the harness or collar or leash attached, what we would recommend you do is walk around room to room in your house. Go to one room, do this exercise, and then take it off. Go to the next room, do the exercise. Make it a game. A lot of times the dogs don't like the collar on because we take them to the vet or it's too constricting or whatever it is, it's not followed by a treat. And a good general rule of thumb is after you attach the leash, put the collar on, put the harness on, always give your puppy a treat. If you don't have one, give them some good love and affection so they know that that activity is going to result in something good and positive for me as a pup. So may I have any questions on either the conditional emotional response or how to put the harness on or get your puppy to put the harness on itself? Okay, the next exercise we're going to go over is something called Cookie in the Corner. Now, this is a scent game, really an introduction to scent games. Now, a dog's nose controls roughly 60% of their brain. And so if we are utilizing that nose work for some exercise, for some mental stimulation, that drains a lot of energy for your puppy. So scent games, just a wonderful way for you to burn energy without you having to get the exercise for yourself. And you can build this one into a whole bunch of other different exercises. Now, I want everybody to come up with a cue that means to go look for something. The most common one is find it. Some people also say search or hunt. So whichever one of those you guys want to use, and if you're already using one, let me know what it is. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab little Quest here, and Quest is going to, I'm going to demonstrate this technique. Now this is called Cookie in the Corner. Now what I've got here is I've got the little barricade set up and your little visual blocker. We're going to have you throwing the treat against it. And when you throw it, don't throw it super hard. We just want to throw it so it's going to hit the wall and the dog's going to hear that sound and then drop right there. Now we're going to be using our marker word for this, and we're also going to incorporate reinforcement of the dog's recall or come cue. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show the puppy that I have one treat. One little other thing I'm going to mention about this. This is one of the very, 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 very few exercises where we're going to say the marker word when the puppy gets the treat, because the object of this exercise is to get the treat. Does that make sense? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to have you guys start and grab about 15 treats, and I'll show you real quick how we do through this, and go have one dog go through all 5 tosses. All right, so I'm going to show the dog I have a treat, and I'm going to be standing about 2 feet, 3 feet away from it because we want our puppy to be able to come back to us. I touch the puppy's nose with the treat, and I say find it, and I throw it right there. The puppy, when it licks it up, I say yes, and then I say here. The puppy comes back to me, I say yes, and give it a treat. I threw 1 treat, and I give 1 treat for coming back. Now I'm going to grab 2 treats. I'm going to say find it and throw them, and I'm going to say yes, yes, here. The puppy comes back. Do that and then do that for 3, do that for 4, do that for 5. Just do it for all of them so you have a good demo, they know what you want. Now make sure each time we're really doing 2 exercises. You're going to throw the treat and they're going to get however many of them are there. You're going to mark each one that they get, and then when they come back to you, and then you're going to say the cue to come back to you as soon as they finish chewing that last treat. When they come back to you, you're going to say your marker word, give them that treat. I'm going to everybody go ahead and practice this for a couple minutes. We're going to go around the room and watch and see how you're doing. That was great. You guys did a great job with this. Now, a quick little tip for this one: do not practice this exercise in places that you do not want your dog looking for things, like the kitchen, there may be a room that the kids have their toys in, or a crafts room, or things where there's dangerous stuff that you don't want your puppy searching for. Now, part of your homework this week, we'd like you to go home and we'd like you to Google scent games, S-C-E-N-T, using the nose. We'd like you to find 2 of these games. This is an exercise, this is a basic scent game, but this is really introducing the cue. Find it means go look for some treats. And eventually what you could do is, at first you're throwing the treats to get the dog to do it when we're teaching this. Eventually your puppy's outside, you might just, in the same area you practice this, hide 5 treats. Now don't hide them too good, don't put them under a rug, because puppies will go through that rug to get to it. But just put them, next to a leg of the chair so they're not obvious. And then when the puppy comes in the area, you just sweep your hand and say, find it, without throwing them. They go and look, and you say, yes, yes, yes. You can incorporate the recalls with it as well. We just do that in class because it's a nice way to reinforce a stronger recall. So now you've introduced find it means look for things. Now go look for a couple scent games. Google them. There's a whole bunch of them out there. And eventually we have some clients where their kids are hiding in closets, or they're hiding stuff around the house and the dog's using its nose, draining a tremendous amount of energy. When it's 99 degrees outside and we don't want to go outside, or if it's 10 degrees below 0, we don't want to go outside, scent work and scent games are a great way to drain energy from your puppy without you having to get that exercise. Does anybody have any questions on scent games? Okay, the next lesson we're going to go over is a very simple trick. It's kind of a cute trick, but it actually has a practical application. We call it the hurricane. The hurricane is essentially teaching your puppy to do a spin. Now, why do we teach this cue? If your puppy is one to jump up on you when you come home, and every time you come home you do a hurricane, it does a spin, it's not jumping up any, it's a replacement behavior. You can also do it if you're meeting people out and about, your puppy wants to jump up, teach them to do a spin. Well, that's a different, again, replacement behavior. Instead of jumping up, now I go in front of people and I do a little spin. It's kind of a funny thing to do. But the practical application is not this. It does help a little bit with not jumping, but the practical application is mounting. Many dogs, when they get over-aroused in play, will mount or hump another dog. Sometimes it's a dominance thing, sometimes over-arousal. No matter what it is, nobody really wants to see their dog mounted or humped. Now, our founder, David, came up with this, or practical application in his, when he was in Santa Monica, his place out there. There's a dog park near his home. And there was a dog there that was getting humped by all of the other dogs in the park. And the guy that was, whose dog was getting humped was telling David that he wasn't going to come back to the park anymore because he just didn't like seeing his dog doing it. His dog didn't like that either. David showed him this exercise, and after showing this exercise, it just, all the dogs, once the dog learned to do it on its own, it stopped the dogs from humping their dog. So if your dog is, it's just a nice thing to have in your back pocket in case that happens, but especially if your puppy is one of those dogs that does get humped by other dogs. Now, in order to do this, we're going to go ahead and we're going to grab a handful of treats. When we're doing this, it's important that you're keeping the treat at your dog's nose level at first. Eventually, we're going to be raising them, but right now, it's really important nose level or a little bit lower. And we're going to use that rubber band technique. Remember, imaginary rubber band. You have the treat against your puppy's lips. As soon as it goes 2 inches away, that imaginary rubber band snaps it back. So keep that treat within an inch of your puppy's nose. Some puppies are going to be more comfortable going to the right. Some are more comfortable going left. There's no right or wrong for this. Now, we're going to use our marker word for this. Now, for some dogs, if they don't like us leaning over them, it's going to be a little bit easier if you kneel down or sit down on the floor, depending on the size of your dog. And so try going to the right. If your dog doesn't go to the right after a couple attempts, try going to the left. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and touch that treat to our puppy's nose. We're going to lure them to do a full circle. And when they get back to the starting point, then we're going to say the marker word and release that treat. I'm going to everybody go ahead and practice that. I'll grab about 10 treats. Let's go ahead and practice that about 10 or 15 times. After you get done practicing that, watch for people who are, I guess that one, try to have them say the marker word, then release the treat is pretty close together, but try to make a little bit of distinction between those. Okay, now that your puppy, if your puppy is comfortable and doing this very easily, now we're ready for the next stage. We're going to do a warm-up and then we're going to transition. We want to eventually transition to not having that treat in our hand. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to have you grab 4 treats, and I want you to do this very, very quickly. I want to get 3, not 3, well, we'll do 1 treat, lure it around, yes. Lure it around, yes. Lure it around, yes. Now that was 3 treats with 3 reps with a treat in your hand. Now you're going to make your hand look like it has a treat, lure it around right away, and when it comes around, say yes, and then you're going to grab your treat from your other hand and give that to your puppy. Now make sure that you don't have a delay, so it should be lure it around, yes. Lure it around, yes. Lure it around, yes. Lure it with no treat, yes. So it needs to be bang, 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 bang. Don't have a delay. The reason we do the warm-up is to make it easier for you. If you have a delay, you're going to kind of sabotage yourself. Everybody go ahead and practice that. 3 really quickly, and then the 4th one with a treat, with no treat in your hand, but only if your puppy's luring around easily. If your puppy's not luring around easily, just keep on doing it with the treat in your hand. There's nothing wrong with that. You can get to the next stage at home. Go ahead and practice. Okay, now that your puppy is able to lure without your having a treat in your hand, eventually what you're going to do is you're going to start luring, and then you're going to be a little bit higher than the dog's nose. Now we're going very fast in puppy classes. Typically something you don't want to start raising it until you practice maybe 3 or 4 different practice rounds, but every dog is unique. Just go at your dog's pace, not necessarily as fast as you want to go. Make sure your dog has the good results. Eventually you're going like this. Eventually it kind of looks like this. It looks like you're asking for a check at a restaurant. Go like this, the puppy does a spin, say yes, and then you give them a treat. Once you get to the point where you can lure your puppy with no treat in your hand, that's usually when I start incorporating the cue. Hurricane, yes. And then gradually go up and up and up and up. You want to really have a good verbal cue for this, because if you're at a dog park, you're not going to be able to go over to your puppy and kind of do this, especially with another mounting. You just get your puppy's attention, quest, and he just does a spin. David said at the dog park, the dog never had to do the hurricane more than twice to get the dog to stop trying to hump him. Just look for another dog that it was easier for. So practice this one a lot. This is an easy one. Like I said, it can help distract your puppy from jumping up on people, but it also is really good if your puppy is going to get mounted by other dogs. Let's face it, you all have really good puppies, good-looking puppies, so the chances of that happening are probably higher. Just kidding. Okay, the last exercise we're going to go over is something called take a bow. Now, this is, it's really important that we understand what is a play bow. You guys have seen play bows, I'm sure, from your puppy and in play down in class from yours and other puppies. A play bow is where the puppy has its chest down, so its front legs are kind of in a stretch, and then the back end is the legs are straight and the butt is in the air. That's called the play bow. A play bow is a dog's way of inviting other dogs to play with it. So we're going to teach your dog to do this on cue. Now, we like to do this so that if your dog, let's say you're walking by and you're one of your neighbor's dogs and they're barking like crazy, and your dog's like, hey man, this is my territory, you better go, and you have your dog do a play bow or two, it might help that other puppy feel a little calmer. Oh, he's not here to mark my front yard, he just wants to play. Not always, but it could give a little bit more of a positive, friendly connotation to the other puppy. Now we're going to be using a concept called shaping for this. Shaping is where we use it's for exercises that are a little bit more complex or a little bit more difficult. Shaping means we're going to basically just ask the dog for just a little bit of criteria, a little bit of the ultimate movement, and we're going to reward for that little bit, and gradually that little bit becomes a little bit more, and eventually we can get the whole thing. Now for this one, what we're going to do, and we're going to be using a whole lot of treats. So everybody pull out about 15, 20 treats. And what we're going to do is we want your puppy we do not want your puppy to lay down. So if your puppy lays down when you're doing this, which eventually might happen, don't reward your puppy that, because that's not what we want. We want that half lay down, just the front half, but the back end is still standing. So we're going to touch our puppy's lips with our treat. And this one, grab a puppy and make sure you demonstrate this one. And make sure you're turned sideways so they get to see it from sideways. It's hard if the dog's butt is facing him. So what I want to do is I just want to go down just a little bit. You just want the chin to just dip a little bit. And like, look at that. It's 1/4 of an inch. Yes, and I give a treat. So even if it's just like 1/4 of an inch, that's fine. Eventually that 1/4 inch will become a 1/2 inch and a full inch and then 2 inches and so on. And basically, and you just keep on repping it. See if you can get into a play bow so they can see the final version of it. And go and make sure you have a whole lot of treats. Okay, so what we're going to do is, and you're going to tuck that chin. You might say your first goal is to get the puppy to tuck the chin in and lower it down, but make sure that you're not going straight, you're not luring your puppy into that down position. That's why we're only going to do a little bit of criteria. That's why we're using shaping, because a lot of dogs, this is the same motion that we use to teach them to lay down. We don't want them to do that. So they lay down, just take a step away. When they get back up, do it, and just any movement to the chin down, say your marker word and release that treat, you're saying the marker word before they get a chance to lay down. Okay, having them practice that. Okay, now for this one, we're not going to add the cue until we can get our puppy lured into that full position. So once you get the puppy to lure in that position pretty easily, then I would say, take a bow, lure them down. Yes, release a treat. Take a bow, yes, release that treat. So again, at home, I would recommend that you practice this with probably any shaping exercise, you're going to use a lot of treats. A lot of people at home will do this with their dog's kibble. Nothing wrong with that. So practice in different parts of your house. But also one last thing, don't ask your dog to do a play bow around other dogs if it doesn't want to. If you're out walking, and like I said earlier, and you walk by a house, that's fine. But if there's another dog and your dog's not vibing with it, don't demand your dog give a play bow. That's inappropriate. This is something that if you can get your dog to do it, once you know what dog knows how to do it, if you ask them to do it and they don't want to do it, they might be saying, I don't want to play with that dog, or I don't feel comfortable. That's okay. Don't force that particular issue. We will send you a training video on this. Watch this one, but keep this concept in the back of your head. Shaping is a great way to teach your dog a lot of different tricks and cues. So maybe any questions on the shaping exercise? Okay, we're going to do our potty break. So everybody go ahead, and if you can clean up the area around you, make sure you pick up any bully sticks, police any treats that are on the floor, grab your dog bed, put it up in the kennel behind you, and then go ahead and make sure you keep 6 foot of spacing as you're going through. Make sure every time you leave, let's go as you're going out, let's go as you're coming back in. When you come back in, please remove the harness as soon as you come in the room, so that way we can get ready for super happy fun time.